Good afternoon, brothers, and welcome to the third episode of Pod Kappa Tau, the podcast about anything and everything Phi Kappa Tau. Hard to believe June's already almost over. I can't believe it. Today, we sit down with a woman some of you may know better than others, Cecilie McGehey. We talk about her time here in Oxford, what it's like working for a fraternity from someone who is unaffiliated with any Greek organization, and we talk about some tips and tricks to help your chapter keep up on track with its billing and rosters. Enjoy. All right, I'm here with the Member Services Coordinator, Mrs. Cecilie McGehey. Cecilie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Zach?
Doing well. So just jumping right into it, you're originally from Oxford, where everybody should know that Phi Kappa Tau was founded. What was it like growing up in, the small town of Oxford?
Well, not going to lie, it's a bubble here. And growing up, it was fun, sometimes hard to find things to do, but I remember thinking I wanted to get out of this town. And then once I had a family of my own, I couldn't get back here fast enough. So it was a fun town, being a college town, but it has its ups and downs to it. So
it's like the one song says by Florida Georgia Line, place you can't wait to leave, but nobody does.
Yes, and funny enough, I lived right next to where Florida Georgia Line where they formed.
Really?
Yeah, down in Florida. So,
that's awesome.
Yep.
So while you're on OU's campus, you didn't end up going Greek. Was there a specific reason as to why?
To be completely honest, no. It was, I guess there were some worries about like what that would be. Neither of my parents were Greek, and when they went to Miami, which is funny because this is known for how Greek heavy and involved everybody is. I just didn't really have any affiliation, no push in my family, so I just did other clubs. So I had lots of friends that were in fraternities, and then a few friends that were in sororities, but mainly a lot of guy friends that were in fraternities.
Right. What brought you back to Oxford, and also what brought you to working for Phi Kappa Tau?
Yes, I get this question a lot about what got me to Phi Kappa Tau. I think it's not only our Phi Tau members interested, especially when they find out I'm not affiliated, but also when I tell my friends and family who I work for. My husband and I were living down in Florida with our twin at the time they were 2-year-old girls. We knew we wanted to come back to the area. And my mother-in-law works for Phi Delta, which is also headquartered in Oxford. She knew I wanted to come back here, and it is so hard to find jobs here in Oxford, good ones, besides working for the university. She noticed that, or had heard that Phi Tau had a job opening, thought it sounded just like my background, heard there were nice people here, and so I applied, and Phi Tau wined and dined me. They flew me in from Florida. I had the sweet little interns come and pick me up with this big Phi Kappa Tau sign. I felt like $1 million at the airport. And then the interns drove me in the car, and they're just peppering me with questions. And in my mind, I'm starting to worry, oh my goodness, did my interview just start now? And it did. As I found out later, it did. They asked them. So I still have a place in my heart for those 3 interns. I worked on staff with 2 of them. After that, they got hired. But so that whole day, we actually do a different interviewing style here now, but I spent the whole day with staff. We had a breakfast, and then we went out to lunch, and then and I met with each individual group. It was extremely intimidating, but I might have been shaking my boots at some point, but I loved it. I felt so at home. There was maybe one person that sat in their office, and I was like, who's that person? But it was one of the recruiters, and we know how weird the recruiters can be. So that's how I came to Phi Tau, was just a mother-in-law saw the job, thought I'd like it, and boy, was she right.
That's awesome.
5 years now, yeah.
They gave you the VIP treatment.
Yes, it sounds like you didn't get the same treatment.
No. Well, like you said, we all know how weird the recruiters are.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was supposed to come in, and then about 3 or 4 days out, they were like, you know what, we're just going to Skype it. So I just got to Skype on Monday.
So did you wear your jammies, or did you put a suit at least on the top half of your body for the interview?
It was shirt and tie top half, and then I think I had basketball shorts on the bottom half.
Yeah, see, I had to wear the full suit, and luckily I was accustomed to wearing a suit, but it was, I think at one point I was sitting at the table, and maybe out of nerve, sometimes I shake a leg, and it got hooked onto the bottom of the table, and I had a full rip down the side of pantyhose. I'm that old, everyone. And I was like, okay, I'm either going to make this or break this, so I just shimmied them off for the rest of the interview. It was so embarrassing, but I don't think anybody really noticed. So, yeah.
Being unaffiliated, was it ever weird, or is it ever weird working for a fraternity when you don't necessarily have the background from college of being in a fraternity or sorority? I mean,
yes, yes, I'm going to call it what it is. It is weird at times. I do think that there are some things that I have missed out on maybe explaining, but I still have the love for things about my life and the passion for things about my life that Phi Tau that I can at least compare and resonate with, so that aspect, yeah, but sometimes I do feel like I have to go on the defense a lot when I say I work for a fraternity. And before I worked for Phi Tau, I didn't understand the whole executive offices concept, or nationals, whatever. It's really executive offices. Wait, executive offices. But just a little funny plug. Anyway, I didn't understand that there was an entity that everybody reported back to. I just thought everybody was willy-nilly freeing it at every campus, and that was it. So knowing that there's a headquarters and then explaining that to people, that they report back, and that it's actually really fun. Not that people think it's not fun, but they just immediately go to the oh, I bet you deal with a lot. And I'm
right.
I mean, doesn't everybody? So
right.
Yeah.
So speaking of fun, you got to recently go to our Leadership Academy and be a facilitator for the first time.
I did.
How do you like it?
I loved it. So the kind of joke around here, at least my joke, is that they don't let me out very often. I don't go to a lot of national events other than the main things. You'll know I follow the book. I'm really good about keeping up with time. Or sending emails out, as most people know.
Right.
So they keep me for those events to kind of keep things in line. And I was a camp counselor, went to a family camp growing up, and then I was a camp counselor for a couple of years. So it's just innate in me to have that goofiness. And I've always wanted to facilitate one of these events. And so I'm sure somebody dropped out because they were like, all right, Cecily, do you want to do this? And about me, I have 3 kids, so I had to make sure my husband was cool with it and that he could handle manning our children for a little while. And he was like, yeah, go for it. I had a blast. It's not like I had doubted the caliber of men that we recruit. And I say we because I am part of Phi Tau. I'm not a brother, so don't worry, I won't say that. But it was just reassurance that we've got great people that are going to do even more amazing things that we can imagine. And they're still, I wish I could have filmed some of the moments and shared them out to be the news. I know they're capturing stuff that people have done, but here's some of the other great things that people are doing. And it was fun. It was fun to be silly. It was fun to see people buy into it. I had a great time. I got to go with you guys. You went to Leadership Academy.
Right.
And you guys probably got to see another side of me. I got to see more, because I didn't get to go to a convention this year, but it was, I loved it.
Would you say it was the people that mainly stood out to you the most about the whole weekend?
Yes. Yeah. The answers, the depth of the conversations that we were getting. I didn't know if people were going to be like, this is hokey, I'm not into it, or whatever lingo you kids use now for that. But it's people were so genuine. And I liked how, cleaning up tables, silly, the not so fun stuff. There was no complaining about that. I was really floored for how many people showed up for breakfast, especially the first morning. It dwindled out as the week went on, but we have a lot of responsible, great guys.
So what would you say would be one thing that you learned throughout the course of the weekend?
That is... Oh, I learned the difference between inclusion and diversity. I know I was a facilitator, and I'm supposed to know all because I'm teaching everybody, but that's ridiculous to think that. I learned, when we paired it up and we're discussing it with people, we brought it up. I knew that there were two different definitions because it was like, first define this, now define this. So that already set me up for success. But knowing, what is it? Because if you remember this, it's like diversity is being invited to the dance, but inclusion is being invited to dance. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Diversity, I think they said diversity is being invited to the party.
To the party,
then inclusion is being asked to dance. Which
is amazing and beautiful, especially a concept that everybody can
wrap their head around.
Right. So I learned that definition.
So does it make you proud to work, for a fraternity that preaches things at their leadership academy like toxic masculinity, or that we need to be diverse and include people, as well as the other thing that was brought up for awareness sake, along with toxic masculinity, is privilege.
Yes. And repeat your question again, just to make sure. So just like talking, you're surprised that we talked about that, or was I surprised that we talked about that?
Not so much surprised. Were you, do you think that it's good that we're teaching those kind of things to these young men coming up through the ranks of college and trying to really mature as young men?
Yes, completely. I actually had the conversation with my husband after this week and kind of going over some of the subjects that we talked about, and he had not heard. He was also not affiliated in college, but understanding what toxic masculinity was. And I love that we're having that conversation. We should be. I also saw some double standards over the weekend that frustrated me as being like a woman working at this camp and facilitating a camp, and some of the double standards put on men, even just like noise, making sure that our gentlemen were not being noisy at camp, but we had some other campers in the same area that were female, and they were loud, and it was not a problem. So it's a very, society makes it very tough, kind of pigeonholes them into this where you have to fit like this. So I was very happy that Phi Tau was starting those conversations and having those, and at least planning that. The privilege conversation was, I think, shook a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think kind of what I was saying, or how I phrased the question, it's just really these two subjects are to bring about awareness. And I think, especially for a lot of these kids or men were 18, 19, might have had a couple of 20, 21-year-olds in there, but that's about it. But I think, just to get them thinking about it, because like you said, it kind of shook them because they've never thought about this before.
I mean, who would think about like, one of the facilitators had brought up that his parents, they had lost their jobs, and he had to help out for a period of time with some of the income. And he's like, I didn't think about it at the time, but like when somebody said it out loud, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I did help out. But he said, but I never thought but for the most part, he lived a pretty privileged life. And then we had a gentleman, I'm going to make a little plug about Edgar, that I thought he was amazing, a positive attitude. He was more like during our privilege conversation, he definitely was more towards the back of the group as far as opportunities. And he said, well, I feel privileged that I'm in college right now. I mean, what a perspective.
Right.
So just very interesting conversations. So even if there weren't popular opinions, they were still shared. And I was really proud and impressed with the group that it was all at least received. And pretty politely.
Yeah, so, and I'd say I think that was maybe one of the most positive things of the camp, is that there were definitely some kids that did not have values, or I guess views, that aligned with others. And there was no, like slamming each other or putting each other on blast, as kids say nowadays. It was really just respectful. Even in my group, I'm sure your group had the same thing. It was respectful pushback and respectful just kind of talk, and really challenging these guys to open up and really think about their views. Yeah, and what's been given to them, or opportunities that were just kind of already there. There was no question about the opportunity. Right. So, pretty amazing. Yeah, definitely a fun weekend. And kind of switching gears now that we're back into the office. Member Services Coordinator, That's your official title here for the fraternity. What all does that entail for you?
A lot. In a wonderful way, a lot of people will find out that we all wear multiple hats, hence the reason why you're holding a microphone right now, but are also a recruiter. We all have extra skill sets, and you have a conversation with somebody and go, oh, you know how to do that? Great. Can you do that for us? But in general, what I was hired for is doing the accounts receivable, so dues collections for the entire fraternity. I work with the undergraduates to do roster management. I order badges, chapter supplies, do awards. And when I say like, I print the awards out. I'm not like deciding. So if you're nice to me, you're not more likely to get an award. You're just in my nice book. And a lot of correspondence with chapters and making sure that they understand what's out there on the website. And so, yeah. And then recently I'm going to be doing some other things that still are in discussion, but potentially with convention and meetings and things of that sort.
Okay. So have you seen the role kind of grow or expand its horizons over your 5 years?
Yes. When I originally was hired, I know that the last person in my role, she was very good about doing like collecting money, but maybe, or at least, processing it. But there was maybe a part that they hadn't ventured out in looking into the dues collection and the following up with chapters. So although it might be frustrating to some chapters how much they hear from me, or maybe like friendly reminder, you have a payment, but that wasn't being done before. So although it might be frustrating to hear that much from me, it's more so I get evaluated on your success. I don't get evaluated and be like, how many people pay late fines? I don't want you to pay late fines. I want you to be on time so that it shows like, good, my communication strategy is working. So it has grown from more communication than it was, and more heavy customer service than it was. I think a lot of stuff was just like blasted out and there was no phone calls. Now I encourage people to call me and I'll walk through their whole roster. You have any questions, and I have lots of chapters that I've grown close with their treasurers or whoever that may be. So that's where it's grown. And I'm trying to think of other stuff. We've changed a lot of the initiation process and a lot more online access, and we're about ready to do some more of that. Big changes, good changes ahead. And because I have a slight obsession with efficiency, it doesn't make sense to me to do something in 10 steps when I can figure out how to do it in 3. So it's I'm working myself out of a job in a good way, that I have cut down on some steps, some practices that in the past that were time consuming. So that's how I've picked up and why I've picked up other jobs, because I go, oh, okay. You don't have enough things to do? Great, we'll send this over to you, because I don't do well idle.
Right. Yeah,
So.
I definitely feel you there.
Yeah.
So would you say, just mainly just because you're the one who reminds the chapters about emails and whatnot, would you say that that's where most of the flack comes, just because you just deal with money?
Yes, it is not a glamorous subject or a sexy subject, as like I heard it a few times over the facilitation, where it's just like, everybody wants to talk money. No, it is not fun, especially when you owe money. People immediately go on the defense. My emails can seem really direct and cold, but it's because I learned the hard way when I was trying to be nice and explain to them why they hadn't paid their own bill. I don't need to explain that. Right. They know why they didn't pay it. It's not my fault they didn't pay it. So I just took all of the personal aspect to it and just made it one-liners, are very straightforward. And I encourage people to call me, because you will find out I'm a real person. I can be fun, I can be silly, and I'm way more understanding when they talk to me and reach out to me ahead of time. And I'm sure that will go more into lead into more questions. But hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, no, okay. For sure you definitely did. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things, I think, especially for me, even being on the road, that it's hard to tell tone through words on a screen compared to when they call you.
And that's why, like, I used to try and do the, like, smile when I typed emails. And then especially when I would put these explanations, trying to explain myself when I would have difficult conversations. And then I realized some of them, they're going to be mad regardless of what I put. So I might as well not spend a whole lot of time in this, because I have a rule, like after so many exchanges, it's a phone call. And I learned that from Travis. Like, you know, if you have to do X amount of exchanges in an email, it's time for a phone call, because you're just not going to solve it. So, yeah, and that's where the flack comes. They're just mad that they haven't paid their own bill. I don't take it personally until it becomes personal. Then it's not fun.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. So would one of the things or services that you could provide is just kind of, if they were to call you and say, hey, you know, like, where exactly is our money going? Is that something that you could help them break down and be like, well, it's going to this and this, and this is how, like, your chapter will benefit from it?
Certainly. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find it. I know we did some upgrades to our website where it has got, in a good way, and this sounds going to sound weird, less information on it, because we'd much rather have people call. Interpretation of what something means and how knee deep you can get in an internet search and find whatever you are looking for, whether it's correct or not. Like, I can find anything out on the internet that suit whatever opinions or thoughts that I think it should be. So, anyway, our page, I would rather people call, and I can break down what their bill is. I can break down where it goes, or I can say, like, you know what? I don't know, but I think I have an idea. Let me confirm that idea. It's really, if somebody has questions, I should be able to tell them where it goes. And some of them are a little vague, but we'll get the answer.
So what would be some tips or tricks that you might have to help chapters stay not only on top of their bill, but as well as stay on top of keeping their roster updated so their bill is correct?
I have lots of tips. This is a subject I've become really familiar on, because especially when we changed all of the billing this past fall, and we made it that you had to have all of your rosters in by a certain time. Communication. It's all about, and doing it early. So that goes for your chapters, or colonies. Because some of our most common complaints are like, well, we don't know at this point who's going to be coming back. If you don't know your brothers, you have a problem. Somebody in your chapter knows another person. That person just didn't join and not know anybody and didn't make any connections. Split off the group and have like a few people checking in. There's going to be some people that are just going to fall through the cracks, but everybody should know somebody, especially on your executive council. They were voted for a reason to reach out. So reach out to people early about collecting dues and knowing if they're going to return, because the earlier you reach out to them, the more time you have to recover, instead of waiting like, oh crap, dues are due tomorrow. Hey, bring your money to the meeting tonight. No one will respond well to that. That's why I send lots of emails out to say, hey, notice you're on a payment plan, because we only accept paper checks right now. That will be changing very soon. But it takes, here's your 8-day reminder so you can get it out in snail mail in enough time. So if you have those conversations with people early, you will have a better success rate on collecting money and making sure your roster is correct.
Well, I certainly hope those help the active chapters. It's common sense, or at least it seems like it is.
It's tough though. Who wants to go to their brother, especially like if you're out going to get lunch and you see like he gets like 3 lunch options, or you go out and you're with your buddy who's of age and you're ordering drinks and you see them order around for the bar or something, and you know that they owe dues. Who wants to stop and do that and have that conversation? Oh, you owe money. Nobody wants to be that guy, but unfortunately that's what it is. They put you in the weird, awkward position. They chose to put you in that position to make it awkward. So, and another suggestion that if you are struggling with that is your BOG. If you have an active BOG or somebody, ask them for help. Let them kind of be the bad guys. You can be like, oh man, it's that that guy reaching out, he needs his money, like push it off on them a little bit. And that way it eases some of the pressure on you. But it all is going to come back to starting those conversations earlier.
So kind of switching gears here, got a couple rapid fire questions here.
Sure.
Do you like conclave or convention better?
Good question. I have a both answer. I know that's like really cliche. I like conclave because it's here. So when, not if, when we forget something, all we have to do is pop over here. It's a little bit more relaxed, but I like convention just because it's in a different spot. That's all.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I would be the same way once I experienced my first convention here later in the summer. And then what is your favorite spot in town to grab some food? Or what is some place that brothers have to try when they're here?
Bagel and deli. Have to. It's so delicious and excuse me. It is so good, but it gets like all stuck in your teeth, but you have to sit on the stairs or like sit in the park when you eat it and get potato chips. And it's a must have.
Yeah, totally agree. That's one of my favorites too. Tristan said Skipper's, so they're right next door to each other. So for brothers that come into town. Yeah,
don't take your bagel and deli to Skipper's and don't take your Skipper's to bagel and deli. That's like a huge no-no.
Yeah, they oddly don't like each other as neighbors.
Yeah, it's like pigeons. Like you're trying to scoot them away and all they do is like pick up and fly into a different spot, like right next to where they were. But yeah, I found out the hard way with that. But that's okay. It's all right. You live, you learn.
Last question before we get into our topic of the week. But as a fraternity, we do not have a rule against non-members nor women wearing our letters. So associate members and non-members are allowed to wear our letters. Once again, I'm going to repeat, associate members and non-members of Phi Kappa Tau are allowed to wear our letters and our coat of arms. If your chapter says that they cannot, that is a local tradition that Phi Kappa Tau does not support nationally. But you get questioned about it sometimes too. Does it ever bother you when that happens?
I try and take everything with a grain of salt. I don't know. I don't know anything about your ritual. I have read through the association process and the ceremony because that is a public ceremony.
Right.
So I'm aware of that. I can only imagine the personal connection and commitment that people have made to become a Phi Tau. And those letters were, they worked very hard for them. There's a lot of things that they are committing to. So I can see why it would be frustrating to see somebody else in those. If anything, I would just use it as an opportunity for a conversation. Ask them, be like, oh, I see you have Phi Tau on. Like, do you have a family member in Phi Tau? And you might have this really great conversation. Oh, it's actually my grandpa was in it, and that they were discussing that. Or you might find out they're on staff and they're super cool and they work in finances. Me, no, but I can see why it would make people mad, and I understand. But yeah, it is not something we support here. If anything, we're trying to get more and more people to see how wonderful it is. We would probably, as long as they're exhibiting good behavior and a good citizen, then I don't see a problem. And they have some sort of connection with it. So, and for all you know, that person, like if somebody, I don't know, accidentally donated a shirt and that was a free shirt to them and it was their favorite shirt, like maybe they hold a lot of fondness to it. Because what did we say over this past weekend? Think of always go with the positive or assume the positive.
Assume the positive, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think just to try and start a conversation because you never know what anybody's backstory is, or even the other saying is you never know what anybody's going through.
Yeah. And I know you're not supposed to donate your shirts. I do know that, but I'm saying like what if there was like the small possibility that accidentally happened. Yeah, just assume the positive with everyone, that it's probably a family member.
Agreed. And moving now into our topic of the week, going back to the billing, because I know this can be a big problem for chapters. And I know that this is something that you're very passionate about preaching, but what, if any, are the ways to potentially cut down the cost of your fall and spring bill?
So the fall bill, It's a set rate. So every chapter and colony is charged the same for their insurance, and that's what fluctuates. So during the fall, there's not a real way to cut down except for making sure your roster is correct. Because if you just don't pay attention to my emails or the lovely text messages from your success manager, and you're like, oh, I'll get to that, and you reach out to us an hour after it closes, it ain't happening. Like, you're not getting those people off of there. And I hate to say that, but we want you to succeed. So it looks down on us when you don't. So that's one way to save money. But in the spring, you can save money by being eligible for discounts. So you can be in alcohol-free housing. You can have a live-in advisor. You can not have a house. There's all these things, and I'm happy to send people that document. Just reach out to me. You can go ahead and call me. If you think that your chapter is not getting the discounts that they're supposed to, or just want to know what you've gotten, we have that document. I can go over that with you, or Tristan can go over that with you. As long as you are actively, and it won't affect this year. So something that you do this year will affect next year's bill, but that's the best way. It's just trying to follow our discounts. It's just from normal things that you would for not, this is the best one. Turning in your reports on time. People don't know that is a discount right there. Going click, turning them in. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a good discount.
Yes. Yeah, it's an amazing discount. I wish I got discounts on my insurance for turning a document in.
Right.
But I don't. So
it would be nice.
Yeah. But that's it. Communication and making sure your chapter is following the rules.
Well, if your chapter needs any financial help, make sure to give Cecilie a call. And once again, Cecilie, thank you very much for coming on the episode. It was great getting to sit down and talk with you, and hopefully everybody gets to know that, yes, you are human, and got to know a little bit more about you.
I hope so, too. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Well, that's it for episode 3. Hope you all enjoyed getting a little bit of insight into her position, as well as get yourselves a nice restaurant recommendation for Conclave. Speaking of that, Conclave is July 12th through the 14th. You will not want to miss the Phi Tau homecoming, to where we were founded 113 years ago in Oxford, Ohio. You'll get to see all of our historic landmarks on Miami's campus, the Alpha Chapter House, as well as get to attend our Series Funathon, which hopefully your chapter is fundraising for, in our competition amongst all the Phi Tau chapters across the nation and the executive office's staff, so you guys can beat the EO staff. Your chapter will be getting philanthropy credit for it. Please check out the Phi Tau social media pages at Phi Kappa Tau for more details. The links are in the bios. Also, please sign up your chapter's 2 representatives for Leadership Academy. Thanks for tuning into the episode, and remember to tune in next week when we interview the Associate Director of Chapter Services, Mr. Brandon Lewis.
We are brothers now and ever, until the day we die. And when that time comes rolling round, and we bid our last goodbye, there is one thing sure and certain. Let us bow our heads in awe. We'll